Hey everyone, I'm Robbie Cornthwaite.
I'm Daniel Mullen.
I'm Angelo Costanzo.
I'm Marco Flores.
I'm Marcelo Carusca.
I'm Ian Fife.
This is Casio, and you're watching.
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 And you are watching
Purebred Reds, Adelaide United Fan TV.
Hello there and welcome to the Purebred Reds Adelaide United Fan TV. We're coming to you from the studio in a Zoom chat today as we preview the resumption of the A-League, joined by a very special guest indeed who played 2.5 seasons at the club, 28 games across the A-League, as well as running out for us in the FA Cup and AFC Champions League between 2016 and January of last year. He's now the captain of Selangor in Malaysia. Taylor Regan, it's an absolute privilege to have you on the show, mate. How you doing?
Yeah. I'm good, mate. Thanks for having me, and happy to come on here and stir up a bit of controversy, no doubt. Knowing me, you'll probably ask difficult questions that I feel obliged to answer, so let's do it.
I love hearing that, mate. Now, look, it is unfortunately the new normal these days, and what I've been doing with every guest recently is asking them how the coronavirus has affected them professionally and personally, if you want to go into that as well. So, obviously, you are in Malaysia, as we touched on, and I believe Kuala Lumpur, given its the gateway into Southeast Asia, the airport there was a bit of an issue when the whole thing broke out. So I dare say you saw the worst of some things when coronavirus became a thing.
Yeah, look, it affected the whole world. We played the first 3 rounds of our competition in front of, I think an average of about 27 to 28,000 people were at our first 3 games. And then all of a sudden we played 1 game behind closed doors. That was an away game. We landed back in Kuala Lumpur. By the time we got home, we were told starting tomorrow we were locked down, and I did not leave my hotel complex for 12 weeks. The wife went every couple of days to get the essentials from the grocery store, but I was stuck inside with the 2 boys and stuff, and it was tough. We've taken a pay cut as well. Our team negotiated with our club, and we've taken a 3-month salary reduction. So at a personal level, it's always a little bit, it's always a sour taste in your mouth when you got to give up money. But reality is everyone's affected, and got to do your bit for the club. So we've done that. We've just resumed training, and we'll start in about 6-7 weeks or so. We'll resume the league. Again, pre-scheduling. We'll only play every team 1 time, and then the league, one of the cup competitions has been cancelled. The other cup competition's been changed the format. So, yeah, I guess coronavirus has hit hard, but at the end of the day, health's more important than football, as much as sometimes we don't like to admit that.
Yeah, for sure. So, 12 weeks in isolation, that's a very hard isolation. How did it affect you? Did it affect you much at all?
Yeah, mate, I was running in the basement car park every 2 days to try and keep cardio up. My gym session was my 3-year-old doing my head in. I used to hang him out the window like Michael Jackson, hung the kid over the balcony. That was my gym session. No, yeah, look, it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy, but again, you hear the horror stories and you see what, because we're over here, I've got Spanish boy in my team and I've got Italian friends, and you see what was happening in those countries, and it freaks you out, especially with a young family. So there was probably the option to go back to Australia, but again, it's easier to lock down with a family here who are happy and healthy than go back and potentially give it to grandparents or somebody that would be vulnerable. So we shut up shop and we stayed inside for 12 weeks. So, yeah. For
sure, mate. No, it's good to see that you're all safe and well too. We're going to get back to this, but just to contextualise us a little bit with what's gone on with you since leaving the club and going to Malaysia. Just tell us how it's all unfolded with your club, Selangor. You are now the captain as of, I believe, early this year that you were appointed. But since you left in January 2019, how's it all gone for you there? And I guess kind of sort of break down how the Malaysian league runs a little bit, because it's probably not one of those leagues that a whole lot of Aussies watch.
Yeah, look, I came to Malaysia in 2016, so I knew about it. I after the Newcastle Jets, I didn't have any options really. I had a couple of things, but like financially they weren't great. So I came to Malaysia at the time with Joel Kianazi, Andrew Nabu, Alex Smith, and an Australian coach, Gary Phillips. So I knew about Malaysian football, and Selangor was one of the bigger clubs. So after I went back to Adelaide, and I spent, 2.5, probably the most enjoyable time of my career, to be honest. I loved Adelaide. I still love it. I miss that place. But Selangor, Selangor came in and made an offer. No, they contacted me first. I'm going to tell this story. This is exciting, and it's probably exciting for Adelaide fans now as well because he's back. But we played against Wellington and we won 3-1. And I got a phone call from an agent and also the head coach of Selangor, and they said, "Oh, we watched the game. You team won. You played very well. We want you to come back to Malaysia. Would you be interested to come to Selangor?" And they spoke a little bit about figures, and I was like, "Okay, yeah, of course. I have to go for my family. I'm not young. I need to do this." So they said, "Look, I'll get all the management. We'll be watching against Brisbane Roar on Friday night at home. Play well." So it was all going well. We were 2-1 up and playing well. And this little fella comes on the field and he starts yelling, "Break his legs," about he is. And he's running in and pushing and shoving Stephen Moore. And so anyway,
I remember this clearly. I remember what happened.
I don't know. He was saying something. I couldn't get hold of him. And just, for whatever reason, my fingers ended up around his face. And I got a red card. So I still remember, and got sent off. And sure enough, I finished the game and I had about 40 messages, I reckon. 35 were from all my mates saying you should have smashed him, blah, blah, blah. The other 5 were from people in Malaysia saying, "You idiot, you've ruined the deal," blah, blah, blah. So it turns out Selangor pulled the offer off the table. They got a Korean trialist came, an Iranian. They had an Asian spot for a central defender, and they tried a few players and it didn't work out. And then the coach rang me and said, "Look, one more chance. Are you playing?" And I said, "Yeah, actually, funny enough, Marco Kurz doesn't like me, but I'm playing against Newcastle on the weekend." And I played and we won 1-0, I think. My mate Bogues gave away a penalty or something. I can't. But anyway, we won. And it looked quite good. And so I took up the offer in Selangor. So that's that little story how I ended up here. But then, I arrived over here at the club with rich history. We play in a stadium that holds 80,000 people. Last year, I think our biggest attendance was about 73,000. It's a big club, big fans, rich history. It hasn't been successful few years for the club, but slowly they're building. New management's come in and take ownership, and it's a really exciting place to be at the moment. We've got a good squad, a good group of guys, and I guess last year I captained the side a few times, and this year the player that was the captain last year moved on, so I naturally stepped into the role. So it looks good on my CV, and it's an honour to captain a big club.
It's brilliant, mate, and what a story as well. We are just going to change gears for a second. We're going to preview the game. It's not going to be a huge preview because it's been such a weird time, obviously, and it's been 3 months since the ball was last kicked. But we're just going to touch on a few things relating to the club at the moment. Taylor Regan, I just want to get your opinion on a few things, and then we'll go back to learning about the man behind the player, as well as going more in depth about your playing career as well. So it's finally back. Our season officially resumes this Sunday night at 7 p.m. against Brisbane Roar at Seabus Stadium in the Gold Coast. Now, Reegs, both clubs with interim managers due to coronavirus, as things look completely different to how they did pre-COVID in the league. Now, I want to ask you, is it fair to suggest that given the Roar were playing a reliable winning brand of football under Fowler, whilst we were severely struggling under Verbeek, is it fair to suggest that Brisbane are the worst affected club as a result of COVID? What do you reckon?
You mean out of the two clubs, or you mean
out of Brisbane and Adelaide? Yeah.
Yeah. Look, I in all honesty, I think Adelaide will make the finals, and I think they'll comfortably walk into the finals. I talked to the boys as we spoke about before we started recording this, and the boys like Carl Veer. The boys didn't like Verbeek. I don't care what they say. They can say what they want in the media and whatever. They didn't like him.
Getting all the scoops here, Reegs. This is amazing.
Yeah, no, I'll give it, mate. That he he talked down on Australian football, and he made them out to feel uneducated and things like that. And at the end of the day, at a professional level, there's only so much you can learn. You can learn, but you can't recreate things that they've learned and played their whole childhood. So he was trying to change people and things, and it exposed people. I remember I went and watched the final when they won the cup, and they not the final when they won the cup. It was a couple of weeks later, and they played Melbourne Victory at home.
Yep.
And they killed Victory, absolutely killed them. And I was like, wow, this thing, Riley McGree, what a player, and everyone just looked brilliant. And I was like, they could really do something here. And then all of a sudden they started going downhill. And I think under Calviert, they're going to be fresh. They're going to be happy. And on paper, they've got a good side. I think Brisbane, I haven't read too much about Brisbane, to be honest. I follow Adelaide, I follow Newcastle, what's happening with the squad, what's happening with the club.
So Fowler and his assistant both aren't coming back, and it's going to be Darren Davies again taking over.
Yeah, again, you still got, they'll have motivation, they'll probably follow. I wouldn't imagine Darren Davies will change too much. But if Adelaide play well, Adelaide will win. But again, it's always tough. I know Brisbane have got that sort of English mentality this season under Fowler, and all their foreigners have come from the UK or in and around that area. And yeah, I think they're quite steely. They're pretty strong. That the captain at the back, Aldred, is a tough lad. They're a good side, but I think if Adelaide play well, if Riley McGree fires, if Christian Osberg plays well, and again, I watched him live against Victory, and when he sent me, I know he might have copped a bit of slack for not scoring many. I think he's brilliant. I think he's unreal. So I think if they play well and fire, Adelaide will win the game.
We love the sound of that, Reegs. Now, as a former fan favourite centre-half, have you been surprised how poor we've been defensively this season? And will our woes at the back continue to be a headache for Calviert, or is it possible for a rookie manager to fix all those issues in the space of 3 months when there's been no competitive matches? What are your thoughts on that?
No, you'll see a completely different defensive shape. I spoke to not just Adelaide boys, I also spoke to, and again, this is, I don't even know this Verbeek, so it's not like I have a vendetta out against him, but
yeah,
I've spoken with players that he coached in Germany, and also, I think it was in Germany, he had him, James Holland, and also Q Yalins, former captain of mine at Newcastle Jets, who had him at AZ Alkmaar. Yeah, so I knew Q very well. He lives around the corner from me in Newcastle, and he said that they had the same issue when he was at AZ Alkmaar with Verbeek. Verbeek wants this style where you are accountable for your man, so you're man for man. So, it's difficult because I see Elsie and Jakobsen are getting drawn out of position, and it might look like it's their fault and they're getting exposed at the back. And sometimes, sometimes as a centre-back you have to do that. But what the coach asks you is what you have to do at the end of the day, or you won't play. So he's asking them to do things that they're not accustomed to or they're not used to. And I think that's why the back line copped goals. I think, look at Elsie and Jakobsen the season before, so they'll be fine. They'll shore that up. Strain, Maroney, Kiddo at left back. Verbeek's little whipping boy, Maria's gone home with him. So, yeah, I think they'll be fine. I really think they'll shore that up and they'll be fine.
Reegs, it's not often I speak to former players and they're so knowledgeable about what's happening at the club still. So I'm really, really impressed. It's great to see that you're still so in touch with what's going on here in Adelaide. And I know you said you loved being here, but like I said, it's not often former players keep such close tabs on the club. So, it's a breath of fresh air to hear you speak so eloquently, mate. Now, James Treacy, who
I'm going to be hated by some people over there. I dare say that some people are going to read this and think, or listen to this and think, geez, isn't he a bitter old guy? But
no way, mate. This is all hot off the press. Now, I want to ask you about James Treacy. I'm sure you're very familiar with him. He's gone for the rest of the season. How much of a setback is it for us? Because he was a weird one in the sense that I just don't feel like he really had a defined role in that midfield triangle. Obviously, it's hard with Louis Dorigo, playing so well, and so it becomes an issue out of who do you drop in that midfield. But Yeah, Teresa's gone for 4 weeks. Is this going to be definitive in what happens between now and the end of the season for Adelaide?
Oh, Troisi has that brilliance. I think definitive, maybe not. Because I don't think any one player in the Adelaide team is going to define the entire season. But he's a massive loss. He's quality. He just has that little bit of brilliance, that little bit of composure and class in the front third to pick that pass. He played a different role at United, I think, compared to what we've seen at Victory. We saw him a lot more on the ball deeper and playing more long diagonal passes. I think he probably, I would have liked to have seen him a bit further forward. But again, I guess that's a little bit up to, you have to go down and help Dorego too. He's only a kid. But at the same time, what a kid he is. He's one for the future if the club can hold on to him. But yeah, look, it's a massive loss to lose James Troisi. I think any club in Australia would be silly not to, say that they would miss a player of his quality. But I think with Riley, Dorego, and even George Blackwood and players like this, they can play in the middle. I'd like to see Lachlan Brook get more of a go. I think young Lockie Brooks, he's a good player. A very, very good player. This is how bored I was during the last week of lockdown. I streamed, well, not bored. I streamed the NPL game against Cumberland and the United youth team. I only watched the first half, and Lachlan Brook was a different level, absolutely different level. So I'd like to see him get a chance, but anything's possible. But James Troisi is a big loss.
Yeah, no questions about it, Reegs. So there's been an absolute myriad of issues engulfing the Australian game since you returned for your second Malaysian stint, including the TV deal with Fox Sports, frustrations with the salary cap, summer or winter, the exodus of coaches. We're in a strange sort of place here in Australia at the moment. Looking at it from afar, what do you make of it all?
I think it's just the tip of the iceberg, really. I think Australian football needs a facelift. I think everyone knows that, but to step into the unknown is dangerous again. With what happened with the NSL and things like that. The FFA, they've done well. They've done well to set up the A-League, to get it rolling, to create clubs like Melbourne Victory and Sydney FC and Adelaide United, and create these sustainable clubs with good fan bases and things like that. But it's time to let go. I honestly believe FFA needs to become privatised independent league. Clubs need to have ownership for what they do. I remember years and years ago, I think it was BMW or something like that wanted to sponsor Sydney FC for millions of dollars to be on the front of their jersey, but they can't do it because
Hyundai.
We have Hyundai as the naming rights. Now, okay, I understand that, but contractually, how well have Hyundai done to block out all other competition? You're just holding the competition back. So it needs to become privatised. It needs to become independent, but it's not easy just to do that, because if there's no salary cap, the gulf potentially gets bigger from the top to the bottom, and Central Coast can't continue to be at the bottom, because until they spend money, they're not going to get out of there. And right now, Charlesworth isn't spending, and he doesn't have the money to spend. And even Adelaide, who owns Adelaide? I don't really know. Yeah. So that's a scary thing too. Yeah. So if that again becomes privatised, does Adelaide have the money to be where it deserves to be? And then there's the whole, the money comes from Foxtel, which means the FFA and all that put a big emphasis on TV. But as players, personally, we don't care about TV. We want full stadiums, and same with the fans. So, you talk with Johan Absalonsen, he came from a club that had like 4,000 capacity stadium in Denmark, but they were paid good and it was a good atmosphere and they played in Europa. It's about boutique stadiums. It's about creating that atmosphere. Cooper Stadium has it. Melbourne Victory have it at Amy Park. Not many other places have it, to be honest. Perth maybe when they're doing well have it. Newcastle again when they're doing really well have it, but no one else does. And you need to create that atmosphere. So they need to get away from TV money being the controlling factor within the league. We want to build passion. I would love to see ethnicity, Adelaide City, South Melbourne. I understand the reasons behind all that, but that's football. That's culture. That's where it needs to be, and it's not. So there's a long way to go, and there's plenty of things to do. But look, I'm doing a business degree. Probably a couple more years, I'll come in and I'll ship everyone out. No,
you're going to be the white knight, Reegs. No, I think in all honesty, a lot of people are going to echo those comments that you've just made. As you say, so much work to do. But just back to the game. So Adelaide's your tip?
Yeah, Adelaide's my tip for sure.
No worries, Reegs. Well, that does us for the preview. We're going to go into your biographical interview now, which has been an extremely stellar career that you've had. Starting at your hometown team, the Newcastle Jets, where you're regarded as a favourite son, spent a good 5 seasons there. What are your best memories from playing in the Hunter, Reegs?
Just being home. I look back now, I probably took it for granted, in terms of like the professionalism that I looked after myself and things like that. I was with the boys, I was carrying on at the pub. I was just a local boy buzzing to play for my hometown. If I could go back, I probably would have taken things a bit more serious. It wasn't until a bloke from Adelaide come in, stubborn, and kicked me out of the joint. So anyway, Newcastle's home. So for me, it was always a big honour to pull on that badge in front of friends and family and things like that. It was. I wore the armband a few times, and that was special moments for me. You play the exhibition matches against your like the LA Galaxy and those things. There was plenty of things, but overall, it was just the fact that your parents and your family can be there and can see you play. That's the most important thing for me.
Fair enough, Reegs. So you moved to Negeri Sembilan in Malaysia in 2016.
Terrible pronunciation, but we'll run with it. Yeah.
Please edify.
No.
How do you say it?
You did well.
Okay.
Negeri, but yeah, we'll go with that.
However you want to say, mate. No, 100%. I'm sure I've completely fluffed it. But anyway, you did go to Malaysia. You enjoyed a very successful period there. Like we touched on at the start of the interview, it must have been very different to country life in New South Wales. Yeah,
definitely. It all kind of happened at a weird time. I had a 3-year deal at the Jets on the table that I was about to sign. Going to stay there, happy days. Bogard was coming back, Dan Mullen. It was going to be the three of us sort of fight for the 2 spots and everything like that. And then last minute, the deal was pulled off the table, and I didn't have any options. I went 6 months without a salary. I had 2 mortgages in Newcastle. I had a fiance that I was due to marry in a month and a half. I'd booked a honeymoon for, to travel and, thousands and thousands of dollars and all this. And all of a sudden it was like, I had savings, but that's going to disappear quickly. So I spent 6 months. Out of the 6 months where I didn't earn a salary, I honestly don't think I touched the ball for 5. All I did was box. I was boxing a lot, keeping fit in the gym, pretty close to, not throwing the towel. I always wanted to keep playing, but I needed to pay, I needed to support the family or the family that was potentially going to grow. So I got a phone call from Tony Rallis at the time and Scott Olleranshaw, a former Socceroo who lives in Malaysia. And they said, look, we're bringing Gary Phillips over as a coach and he'd like you to come, but you've got a trial. I was like, yeah, right. So I flew over and played a game and sure enough, I signed. But I was very lucky because we signed with, like I said earlier, there was 4 Australians in the team. You could have 4 foreigners and all 4 of us were Australian. All 4 of us had a partner. It was like a little holiday.
That's perfect for you. Yeah.
But at the same time, it was really good. It was a not overly westernized area where we lived. There was a few cafes and things like that, a few bars, some nice like country club where we'd hang by the pool and things like that. But it was good. It was a bit different, but it was enjoyable at the same time. And we were doing really well. We were in the 2nd division actually, and we were about to get promoted. Well, half season we were 2nd, and politics in Southeast Asia. So the money man of the club wanted to change. He didn't like what he saw in the front third, and he sacked Andrew Naboo and sacked Joel Chianese when we were 2nd. And Naboo went to the Jets, and we all know what happened after that. And Chianese went to Perth, and he's killing it as well.
He is.
And then we bought in little Enrique. And
This is coming so full circle.
Yeah, it was really funny how it all worked. So we bought in Enrique, and we bought in a French-Serbian boy in the front third. And it's not overly professional at that club. Money was on time and things like that, but the professionalism wasn't great. So Enrique had come from Brisbane, a lot of success. That tight group, Matt Mackay, Berisha, they'd been together for so long. He was so comfortable to come into Southeast Asia where, okay, you get paid, but, you're getting change on the bonnet of your car at this club.
Far out.
The facilities weren't great. It was no different to like an NPL,
yeah,
I dare say, facility, but then you play in front of a big crowd and things like that. So Enrique kind of lost his marbles pretty quick, and before you knew it, he was out of there to Adelaide.
Yeah.
Who, funnily enough, came on pre-season in Malaysia.
Yeah, we did.
So
That's
I
right.
remember, yeah, me and the missus were getting out of our car, and next minute these taxis were pulling up in front of us, and I was like, Tarek Elrich, and I'm like, what's going on here? And sure enough, there's Enrique. We didn't even know he'd gone to Adelaide. We knew he'd left our club, but this was days later. So anyway, we're going over, and I was talking with them and saying hello, and then, a month later, poor Jordan Elsey did his ACL, and they needed a replacement. So at the time, my wife was pregnant with our first child, and you leave Newcastle where it's your home club, but reality was Newcastle Jets were still at the bottom at that stage. And Adelaide have just won the championship. Their season started, they're struggling a bit, and they dangle the carrot of Asian Champions League in front of you. It was a no-brainer. So I jumped on the next flight. Actually, I didn't go on the next flight. I went into the management's office here in Malaysia. They didn't want me to go. I tried to not burn a bridge, but in the end, I basically torched it. And I left.
Wow.
Yeah, that was it.
The rest is history. So can I just take you back a little bit? So was it really looking that ominous for you? Because, you would have only been, correct me if I'm wrong, but 26, 27 at the oldest when you were suddenly weighing up your career. It seems extraordinary given, you'd been on the books of the Jets for 5 years.
Yeah. It's one of those ones, you get the PFA and you get the people come in and say to you, you got to think about life after football, what are you going to do, blah, blah, blah. But you don't, you keep, I'll be right. Something will pop up. I'll be right, and then, I've always got options, I'm playing regularly in the A-League. Of course, I'm going to get a contract in Thailand or Malaysia or Indonesia. It's going to happen. But reality is, and I hope some people actually listen to this that are still playing A-League, that a lot of it's politics. You've got to know the right agent. You've got to know the right person to get a deal. Like I'm not the most talented centre back, but there's centre backs in the A-League that would kill to have the contract that I have, no doubt. But reality is I'm here because I knew people and I've been here before, and it's not easy to survive over here. You have to deal with these things. And so at the age of 26, I think I was, when I got married and was out of a contract. Yeah, it was tough. I was very, very close to hanging them up. I was probably going to play NPL in Newcastle. There's a club around the corner that probably would have paid $500 or $600. I would have got a job. I might have boxed, to make some extra money or whatever. So I had decisions to make, but in the end, I was lucky enough to get an option to sort of revive it, and I took it, and I still see that now. I still see like players in bottom teams that people think are crap. I remember when I arrived in Adelaide, I copped some shit. Like, God, what are we selling him for? He's fucking hopeless and all these.
By who? Who was saying that?
Everyone. But that's fine. That's everyone's entitled to an opinion. But I still remember reading some stuff, and everyone still writes that recycled rubbish. They love the old recycle emoji on the thing.
It's true, yeah.
Yeah, and and players read that. Like, I don't know if fans know it or not, but we all read it, And some people take it with a grain of salt and just, and others take it to heart. But I remember thinking, like, it actually kind of is true. Like, I've come from the bottom team where we've copped goals, and now I'm, Bill McGowan and Yakapula Rocker have just won the league, and I'm trying to fight for a spot. And sure enough, I ended up getting it. toward the end of the year next to Dylan. But reality was, you come from a bottom team and you doubt yourself, but when you actually get around better players and in a better environment, the difference isn't huge. And that's the same with NPL players. Now, Matt Halliday at Adelaide Olympic, I've watched him play plenty of times. He can play.
Yeah.
He could be in an A-League setup. Would he play at Adelaide right now? No. He's not better than Elsie. He's not better than Jakobsen, but he could be in the squad, no doubt. Nick Bucco, Dan Mullen's there now, obviously. Even Alex Mullen. Alex Mullen's quality. These players, they can play A-League. The difference isn't huge. It's just about getting a chance. I was very close to stepping backwards to the NPL, but I'm very fortunate and very grateful to get an opportunity.
It's just mad how fine the line is. I mean, and we fast forward to now where you're captaining a club there in front of 70,000. I mean, it's insane really when you isolate it like that. But Reegs, thank God you didn't do what you were saying you might have done and kept on. And you found yourself at Adelaide, as you've touched on now. Here's what you said when you arrived at the club. This is a massive opportunity for me and for my family to come to Adelaide. It's a lovely city with lovely people. The boys are nice, and I've felt welcome from the start with the guys, which is always good. I knew a few of the boys from my time with the Newcastle Jets, but also with my previous club in Malaysia, where I played with Enrique for a little while. Adelaide was always a tough place to go when I was playing in the A-League previously, and it's known around the league as one of the best pitches to play on. The fans are always very vocal, and the support is great, which I'm looking forward to being a part of. Now, you've gone into it a little bit, but just, I guess, if you can go into a bit more detail about how the move exactly came up. And you came in at a pretty strange time. I mean, as you mentioned, we had just won the double and, the weight was lifted off the club. But a difficult start to the following season, and then you find yourself at the club. What were your initial sort of, memories that you've got from that time when you first walked in? An exodus of players from the championship year, and just a bit of a strange time overall, wasn't it?
Yeah. I remember I flew back from Malaysia. I flew to Newcastle. My wife was there. She was heavily pregnant. She was at about 36 weeks at the time. I flew there because the season was just starting, and Newcastle were playing Adelaide in Newcastle. So I went to the game. After the game,
this is
Adelaide
round
lost.
one.
No, round one. They drew, actually. I think it was 1-1. I think Jesse Macaroon.
He did indeed.
Yeah, can't believe I remember that.
Killer memory.
Anyway, I went the next morning. I went to the hotel and met with Ante Kovacevic. Greg Griffin was there, and I met with Guillermo Moore. And we discussed, and I'd already agreed in principle. It was just a matter of signing a contract. So I met them, everything like that. And they were leaving that day. I said I'd be there in a couple of days. I packed up and I flew there. I signed the contract, started training for about a week and a half. And the wife called and the baby was coming. So I left again. And I left again. I arrived in the morning. We gave birth that evening. The first child, Bodhi. And then I stayed for 5 days. It got to a point, and Amor was such a gentleman. Like he is honestly the nicest, most humble man you ever meet.
A lot of people say that.
I remember I'd been gone for like all the boys and even the coaching staff. Everyone was messaging me saying congratulations, and everything. And I remember I'd been gone for 5 or 6 days or something, and I thought I got to go back. I messaged the coach and I was like, mate, sorry, haven't spoken to you the last couple of days. Been crazy. I'll be there soon. And he's like, take your time, thank you, or whatever he said. It's your first baby. You can stay for a couple of weeks if you want to. Just signed a contract. I better go back. So I went back and whatever. And it was a good time. But at the same time, it was tough. But I think that's when, when you see the true character of players, when it gets tough, and it was a fair bit of a clean out at the end of that season. And the emergence of some good young kids, I think if there wasn't that tough period, you wouldn't have seen Riley McGree, Jordan O'Doherty, Nikola Miluznic. I don't think these players would have got the opportunity had, Video and Karuska and these players continued the form or not got injured. They got injured as well and everything like that. So, yeah, it was interesting times. But, the Champions League campaign was enjoyable and things like that. And I think I played a few okay games. We were on the bottom, but then we slowly went up the table a couple of 1 or 2 spots initially, and then I negotiated myself with a new contract with Ante, which no doubt we will get into at some point when we talk about the transfer clause that I negotiated. But I really enjoyed it. I re-signed for 2 years, and honestly, if my family wasn't from Newcastle and everyone wasn't there, I'd happily live in Adelaide for the rest of my life. We loved it. We really did.
That's a glowing reference for our city mates. I've got to ask, what was it like switching from Amor to Kurz? As someone that plays in such a key position where philosophy on the game should be played with ball possession, determining so many factors. I mean, it's playing as a centre half. It really means a lot to go from one completely different philosophy to another. How did that sort of come about for you?
Yeah, look, Amor again. Amor was just he was just I don't know how even this season they won it. From what I've heard, he did. The boys ran a lot of it. Not ran a lot. He still implemented his philosophy, but they had a large input. He was just such a gentle giant. He was an absolute. He was too nice to be a coach. Honestly, he's too nice. But it was so relaxed. Training was fun. It was come in, muck around. Okay, done. Show up to the game, feel fresh, have energy, keep the ball. If you win, you win. If you don't win, you don't win. I remember it was one game, I think it was Perth Glory, but we came in at half time. I don't think I'd debuted yet, and we were down 3-0. We were getting better. It might have been 2-0. We came in, and I remember sitting there, and he said, okay, he's not good. He's not good, but he's okay. He's okay. We not score. We not arrive, but he's okay. He's okay. He's just football. He's okay. I'm thinking, what is this? We just got battered. We could be getting killed. Dylan McGowan throwing boots across the change room.
Holy shit!
It was just. I was like, what is happening here? But it was so enjoyable. It was a good group.
What an impersonation, by the way. Far out.
Yeah, no, that was very bad. But yeah, and then Kurz comes in, and it was just full 360. Like you said, he really liked football. He wanted you to play things like that. But he was very German. He was very regimented. Everything we did was very disciplined. But it was good. I got a lot of time for Marco Kurz. He can coach. He really can coach. It was disappointing to see him leave Adelaide. He obviously ruffled some feathers within the roots of the club. There's no doubt about that. I think everyone would happily admit that. He had his favourites in the change room, and he had arguments with players, but that's all part of it. But he ran a good ship. Adelaide United under Marco Kurz was never a team that and no one wanted to play Adelaide United when Marco Kurz was the coach, because there was. You knew they would never give up. They'll run until the last minute, and they'll fight. It was enjoyable, but it was hard work. I've never been so fit, that's for sure. Wow.
Just before we're going to get more into the whole Kurz saga, but just before we get into any of that, it'd be remiss of me not to bring it up. The Mitch Austin episode in the FFA Cup. It became a bit of a meme. It's an iconic moment for everyone here in Adelaide. There's something that's going to be coming out about it on this show that I've done a little edit. But look. Oh,
here we go.
I mean, what a killer moment it was. I mean, I don't want to dig the heels into Mitch Austin because I'm sure it affected him. But you did nothing wrong, and he just came off worse. But in the moment, did you think anything of it? I mean, because it still gets talked about a lot today.
Yeah, look, I knew when I hit him that it was good. I guess he's quick. He's real quick. And I remember he took that touch down the line, and he was coming, and we had numbers. So if he beat me, I knew Elsie was behind me to sort of come across and cover. And he took that heavy touch and looked down. And I thought, as he looked down, I was thinking, he doesn't even know I'm coming. Anyway, and then he looked up last minute. I got him good. It was. I got the ball at the same time, but I knew there was going to be contact. So I was braced for it, and he wasn't. And credit to him, he got up and played on. And plenty wouldn't have. So credit to him for doing that. But yeah, it was, it would have been nice if it was Bess or someone like that. Or something like that. But yeah, look, I got a few like abusive tweets off his mum and his sister and things like that.
Actual.
Yeah. Just call me a grub and things like that. But again, I think overall most people knew it was, it wasn't a foul, but at the same time, I knew the contact was coming. So, I didn't pull out, and I was happy to hit him. He just had to look up a bit earlier, and maybe he might have moved or something. I don't know. But yeah, it was good. I haven't done much in my career. You said stellar earlier, and I certainly haven't had a stellar career, but that's the one thing.
I wouldn't agree with that.
That I will be. Yeah, but that's the one moment that I will be remembered for. I got no doubt about it. I still go to the local pubs in Newcastle, and all the boys and my dad's mates and that always say, that tackle, that hit. So yeah, that's going to be Taylor Regan, I dare say, and I'm happy with that.
Mate, there's no reason not to be proud of it. It was an absolute killer of a hit. You certainly brought him down better than anyone could have. So look, we're going to switch tact again. So sadly, you ended up departing the club quite suddenly. I don't think anyone on the outside expected it at all, even though you weren't playing as often as you would have liked to have been at this point in time. This is the end of 2018 now that we're talking. So you paid your own contract out, which, I might be wrong, but I swear it doesn't often happen in the game, or if it does, we certainly don't hear a lot about it. And then following that, shortly after, you sent out a tweet which fueled the fire of the infamous Marco Kurz in versus Marco Kurz out debate that happened in Adelaide. A lot was going on at this point because Marco came out not long after you'd left and said the club hasn't tabled me a contract for next year. Anyway, I'm sure you know the story, but a lot of people who are not privy to what was going on behind closed doors were, without any question, absolutely outraged. And then you sent out a tweet which was saying, I'm not quoting you exactly. I can't remember exactly what you said, but it was along the lines of, I can understand why people are outraged with the news of Marco Kurz not being given a new contract, but there's sort of more to meets the eye, or you worded it in one of those kinds of ways. But you've just gone on to endorse Marco Kurz in this interview. So, I mean, what exactly was your position on the coach? Because I know it's hard to love a coach when he's not playing you, but I mean, there's two sides to this story, I'm guessing. I mean, what exactly went on? Because the tweet had a lot of people talking. It was in all the forums. It was retweeted so much. And a lot of people just weren't sure with what was going on with Marco Kurz. So, yeah, the floor's yours, Reegs.
Yeah, you've opened it up there. You've basically thrown me a shovel and said, dig your own grave. No, look, like I said, I respect Marco as a coach. I've said that the whole time, and I think that's why I said in that, I can understand why the fans, would be upset, because reality was Adelaide United under Marco Kurz were a good side, and it was something that, it was a building block for the club, after the season 2016-17, to then go on, make the final of the FFA Cup, do well. I think we lost in extra time against Melbourne Victory in the semis, and then won the cup the next year. For him to leave, it was weird. But reality was that Marco can coach. Marco's people skills weren't the best, and that was my biggest thing with him, was that me and him, I think, we had a lot of disagreements. I remember one session, young national team was away or something like that. So Blackwood was away, Apostolos Stamatopoulos was away, and Bubba had just come back from injury, and I was on the second 11, which I wasn't happy about. So I belted Bubba, and he yelled, and Kurz has just abused me in German and just absolutely gave it to me. So we've had a screaming match at Cooper Stadium, things like that. So, but it was more, my issue with him was more the communication. Look, I stand by what I said about Marco Kurz. He's a good coach, a very good coach. And I believe Adelaide United were on the right track with Marco Kurz. And I think that's why I kind of said in that tweet, I can understand why the fans are upset, things like that. But I think overall, Marco, he had to understand Australian football too. And he upset a lot of people. Like sometimes a media guy, like some media outlets would come to training, and he would see them there, and you know, this might, yeah, again, anyway, I'll just say it. He would see the media at training, and he would say nothing, and then all of a sudden, the media representative from Adelaide United would come, and he would wait until somebody was around, and he would abuse our media officer for not informing him that media were coming or whatever. And it was a show of power, you know. It was a show of, you know, he just wanted to make sure everyone saw that he was the boss, or that he had this, you know, he was so tough. But reality was, he could have done it behind backs, but he did it just so that everyone saw it. And just little things like that, like, you know, these are Adelaide people, you know, these are boys that, you know, like, you know, your mate Will Cutts, Jordan Trombetter, these are Adelaide United fans who have a job with Adelaide United, that come and give their all for the club, that have got friends and family, and then all of a sudden Marco Kurz is abusing them in front of all the players, and just little things like that. You have to know how to treat people, you know, I think, and that's, you know, and that's where I fell through with him a little bit. I upset him one day at training when I kicked a player in his starting 11. But reality was, I wanted to be in that starting 11. You know, we were down 2-0 against Central Coast. Urson Gullum got sent off. I came on, and we drew 2-2 with 10 men. The following week we beat Newcastle or something like that, and the following week after that I'm dropped, and it's like, well, hang on, like, then there's no communication, you know. He doesn't tell me or anything. We just show up to training, and Taylor, you're on the second team, and, you know, Urson's back in the starting team, and that then creates tension within the group, because I'm upset with why I'm not playing, and then, you know, naturally you know, how am I going to prove that I should be playing? Well, I have to train hard. So what do? I have to win. So
Yeah.
Winning for me is winning, you know, physically as well. So, you know, and then I look bad at, you know, if I'm a striker in the starting 11, you don't want to be playing against Taylor at training, because he's going to try and belt me. But that's the only thing I can do. I can't do anything. I have to win. So, you know, but if he spoke to me at the start of the week and said, Taylor, you know, Elsie's my right side centre back, and Elsie is brilliant, and played brilliant that season, you know, but I want to play Gullum on the left because he's left-footed or whatever, you know, just talk to me and be a man, you know. And that's why me and him sort of fell out a little bit here and there. But again, as soon as you're on the pitch, you know, total respect for the guy. He can coach, and he's a good coach. And yeah, I'm glad he failed at Victory though, because I didn't want either of them to do well there.
Wow, Reegs, I don't even know what to do about all that. You've just unpacked 2 years of innuendos, and oh wow.
Yeah,
huge.
but again, that is the thing, you know. As a fan and everything, you see the package on game day, you know, and that's fine. That's every facet of life. That's every business, you know. And as a fan of Adelaide United, I would feel hard done by for getting rid of Kurz too. You know, I agree. You know, he shouldn't have gone. But if you're inside and you see that other side of him, you know, and the fact that I then got to step out, and again, no holds barred, you know, I'll say what I wanted to say. So that's why I sent that tweet, and I knew it would get people talking, because, you know, of course it was a little bit controversial, like, oh wow, why, you know. So yeah, anyway.
Wow, mate. No, that's gripping stuff. I can't believe some of that, but it is what it is. Look, I'm glad you brought up Will Cutts, because I was at the Arkabar watching a certain game away to Wellington, which we won, and Kurz brought you on and played you at 6. And Cutts and I both sort of looked at each other, and I said, "Has he ever played at 6?" And Cutsy's like, "I don't think he's ever been coached how to play at 6. Marco just threw him on." So is that true?
I played a few times as a defensive midfielder at the Jets, actually, in the A-League, under Van Egmond. And as a kid, I always played as a defensive midfielder. So once again, Cutsy's wrong. Cutsy's always wrong. That's the only thing Kurz was right about. Cutsy's always wrong. But look, Cutsy's a good guy. For someone that sunbakes on the moon, he's a good guy. He's got the worst skin in Adelaide. He actually likes winter more than he likes summer. The Fringe Festival's never needed anyone with so much sunscreen as summer. Will Cut.
Far out, that's amazing. What bets? That's crazy. Anyway, we'll move on, mate. So successes in Malaysia since early last year, and now being appointed the captain. tell us how it's been. I mean, obviously you'd been there before, but it's gone very, very well for you. I'm sure that's the case. Just run through it again for us. I mean, did you expect it to go as well as it has for you?
No, not really. I arrived here with knowing that Selangor had a bad couple of years. The last trophy they had was in 2015, where Robbie Cornthwaite played for the club.
Good friend of the show.
The trophy. Yep. And Robbie's a legend of the club here. The fans really like him and for what he did and everything like that. But again, Southeast Asia's a bit tricky. It's a little bit political. Like for instance, the season that Robbie won the Malaysian Cup here with an Australian coach, Mehmet Jurakovic, Mehmet got the sack after that final, and Robbie also got told he was no longer wanted. But it wasn't for the fans that basically protested. So he got re-signed, and then halfway through the season, they released him again, and he went back to West Sydney. So, it's funny how quickly it can change over here, and it's not always football decisions. It's often things that happen under the table, so to speak. But now, it's been refreshing because I've come into the club where new management, there's no corruption. They're straight down the line. It's a good club. It's very professional. Our facilities are good. Training's excellent. It's really good. I got a teammate here that used to play at Sydney FC, Brendan Gann. So he's got a Malaysian passport. He plays for the Malaysian national team. So he's in my team, and he's a local superstar. He was at Sydney FC back in 2010, 11, 12 maybe. And then he came over. Safwan Barudin played for Melbourne City, Singaporean boy. He's in my side. We've got a good side. We've got a Spanish boy that played at Atletico Madrid. Yeah, we've got a good side. So it's enjoyable. I really enjoy it. And the fact that I get to wear the armband, I guess that's an added bonus. But again, that doesn't change how an individual plays, I don't think. But yeah, it's an honour.
Give us an insight into the dynamics that go on in the dressing room. Does everyone try and speak English? I mean, as the captain, it's you're at the centre of it all. I mean, what's that like?
Yeah, look, it's a little bit, foreigners stick together, local players stick together, things like that. Everyone can speak enough English to comprehend everything. I also took it upon myself to try and learn the language here. Just to fit in, I guess. You don't want to be you don't want to be that guy that upsets people and doesn't know what they're saying about you or things like that. So I can understand the language now. I mean, I can speak it, but when they speak it back to me, sometimes I'm like, I could do the same. But I can speak all right. So yeah, it's not easy at times, but it's good. I mean, that's the biggest thing I miss from Australian football is the dressing room. The banter, the boys, the camaraderie. Ben Halloran, he'll say camaraderie in every interview, Ben Halloran. But that's what you miss most.
Yeah.
The group I had at Adelaide was the best change room I've ever been in. It was really good. So yeah, that's the biggest thing I miss between the two countries for sure.
Wow. Again, just so interesting. I'm sure the fans would embrace the fact that you've tried learning as well, the Malaysian language. And, it definitely rubs off well as the captain. So props to you for doing that, mate, because it's, it takes a bit of bravery to take on such a different language like that. So, I'm sure it'll hold you in good stead. Reegs, we're nearly at the end. I've got to ask you what the future holds for you.
Yeah, your guess is as good as mine. Look, my contract here expires at the end of this season, which is the end of November. I'm not sure. I'm not really sure. I'd love to look. I'm 31. I'll be 32 at the end of this year. I'm not young anymore.
Not overly old for a centre back in these parts, though.
No, that's true, and I look after myself pretty well. If you compare my body to Jordan Elsie's or someone like that, or Paul Izzo, should see him. If you FaceTime him on a Sunday morning after the boys have won on the Saturday night, have a look at his body. It is a disgrace. I
might have heard a few things from the Central Coast days, but anyway, we'll let that slide to the keeper.
Central Coast, well, it hasn't changed that much, I'm sure. No. Yeah, look, I really don't know what's next. I want to stay in football, obviously, for a bit longer. I owe it to my family to be in Newcastle eventually. That's home. So my little fella will start school in about 16, like primary school, in about 16 months or so. So if I can do another year abroad and make that money again, that'll really set me up, I think, financially. But at the same time, you don't know what's around the corner. When I was halfway through my contract at Negri Sembilan, there's no way I would have told you that I'd be spending 2.5 years in Adelaide.
Okay.
So anything's possible. But yeah, I mean, a part of me misses Australia and Australian football, but a part of me thinks that, you know, I'm not getting any younger, and to be financially stable, you know, for years to come is probably the most important thing as a father and as a husband. You know, I need to look after them before I look after myself, you know, so a part of me thinks that.
Reegs, it's been so fun speaking to you. I've got a few more things to ask. Obviously, you sound like the king of banter. So, you know, at Adelaide and in other dressing rooms as well, but most interested in about your time at Adelaide. It sounds like Elsie and Izzo were sort of the central clowns that you hung out with the most. Who had the best banter around the club?
Best banter. Dill McGowan had good banter.
Okay.
Dill McGowan had good banter. But there's always boys that have got good banter because they're easy targets to pick on. You know, like it was always easy to pick on like Ben Garuccio or Ryan Strain or someone like that, because they're just without football, who knows what Ryan Strain will be? Honestly, like he would be lucky to get out of Modbury. Like he is just, that's just Ryan Strain, you know. But then, yeah, I guess, yeah, it was a good change room, you know. When especially that season, the second season under Kurz, the one I left, you know, with Jakobsen and Isaias, you know, Isaias and Vinny Leo and these guys. It was a good group. Ken Ilso was always fun.
Well, certainly
yeah,
from
I was waiting for that. I was just trying to get a bit of a reaction. Yeah, look, it was always a good group. So I wouldn't say anyone in particular, but it's a good group of boys for sure.
Who'd you room with on away days?
Chopped and changed a bit. Mostly, it was Dill McGowan when I was there in 2016-17, and then can't really remember, to be honest. It kind of chopped and changed. I did have someone, but I've just gone absolutely blank. But yeah, it was always, I think I had Isaias a little bit. Yeah, it always chopped and changed a little bit because I was just a spare dick on the bench. So it was whoever was the other bench player.
It's unfortunate, mate, that it went that way, but
that's all right.
It is what it is. You've, you know, it's definitely ended up being a good move for you going to Malaysia, and you know, things have worked out well. Now, you know, we've seen the likes of Joel Griffiths go into a youth coaching role at the Jets, I'm pretty certain. So, you know, 5 years perhaps down the line, could that be something that is in the water for you? I mean, we'd all love to see it.
I have a passion for coaching, and I think I could coach, but I don't think. No, I don't like the instability of professional coaching. You know, I think, you know, if you told me that I could live in Newcastle and be a professional coach for the rest of my life, I'd say yes, because my wife and my kids have followed me. So, you know, I could do that. But the fact is, if the team doesn't do well, you're sacked. You know, and you have to chase this like I've been chasing football, you know, and I can't do that to them anymore. You know, you know, at the end of the day, I'm a family man too. So I've got to be in Newcastle. So I'm doing a business degree through Torrens University. Actually, I got a scholarship at Adelaide to do a university degree. So I'm doing a Bachelor of Business. Yeah, so I like the football administration side of things. You know, the Bruce Gitte, Anante Kovacevic, Aurelio Vidmar did it, obviously. You know, that sort of a role in the admin in terms of like football operations and trying to make sure the club, you know, survives and can be profitable. I think it's a disgrace, in all honesty. And again, it's partly the FFA's fault, but how can COVID how can 8 clubs all of a sudden declare that they can't pay salaries for 2 or 3 months? Like, how is there no money for a rainy day with a professional organisation where you take good money off the fans to be sponsors? You know, and I understand, you know, the expenses associated with, you know, stadium costs and things like that. But reality is, to have to put professional players on job seeker, for me, that's embarrassing. You know, and it's just an easy way out for clubs to just say, oh, well, we'll save money and put you on there. You know, for me, that's an absolute cop out. So, you know, I'd like to be involved in football in some way to try and to build it to be more professional and more sustainable.
So much to go through there, Reegs. I mean, it's really interesting. It could go anywhere for you, but I'm sure you could cut it in the media or as a football agent. You seem to know how they run.
Radio, maybe.
No, not at all, mate.
I don't know about media.
You're a good-looking rooster, mate, and you talk the talk, and I can't believe how well you've thrown some of the guys under the bus. Reegs, it's been an absolute privilege, mate. I've had so much fun interviewing you. Definitely one of the funniest, most open, honest interviews we've ever had on the show, and it's a real shame that you're not here anymore because I'd love to just grab a beer with you, but you know, it is what it is. It's great to hear how much you enjoyed your time when you were here. Hopefully, you know, you'll come back in some capacity, whether it's for an extended holiday or whatever, sometime down the line when COVID goes away. But mate, we wish you all the very best for the resumption, or the start, I should say, of the Malaysian League coming up, and everything else that your future holds. An absolute fantastic personality of the game in Australia, and one of the iconic players of the A-League, mate. It's been awesome touching base with you for a good hour and unpacking so much, mate. All the best, Taylor, and thanks so much for coming on.
No, I appreciate having me, and I hope that, you know, the boys can get in the finals and do something special. And yeah, thanks for the support. And I'll miss Adelaide, and no doubt I'll be down there at some point. I think plenty of stories to make again in Peel Street or Hindley Street or somewhere there. So
Wicked
I'll be
stuff.
around, mate. But yeah, all good. Thanks
Awesome,
for having me. We'll
Reegs.
chat soon.
No,
Thanks,
absolutely
champion.
great. Hopefully we can get you on for a second time, mate. Stay safe, and all the
Sounds good,
best
mate.
for the rest of your season.
Thanks, mate. All the best. Cheers.